The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. This masterpiece was released on the Nintendo 64 in 1998, and the expectations of the series have been elevated to astronomical heights ever since. Not only is this legendary game an absolute pleasure to go through, but it also had a huge impact on the video game industry as a whole, in more ways than you may have realized. Ocarina introduced an open-world 3D version of the land of Hyrule, which may seem like a small map by today's standards, but back then, it was gigantic and awe-inspiring. The game highly incentivized the curiosity of exploration, and often hinted at areas that you couldn't reach until later parts of the game, which helped make Hyrule feel as if it was continuously expanding, and as if there was always more ahead to enjoy. Now, much of the video game industry is driven by this adventurous feeling of freedom in an open setting, and this was arguably the first game to truly master that experience. Simply put, it was the perfect transition from a 2D Zelda world into the brand new 3D universe. Another way that Ocarina of Time was a pioneer was how it was the first major release to introduce the Z-targeting system. In an explorative and interactive 3D world, it would have been basically impossible for a Zelda game to function well without this mechanic. Z-targeting allowed Link to directly engage with different characters and objects while still maintaining the game's wide-open style. This was a monumental step for many video games that deal with puzzle solving, combat, and basically every form of engagement with NPCs. It's a subtle detail that you may take for granted if you go back and play Ocarina of Time today. But thanks to it, now many modern games rely heavily upon this intuitive design. But as much as there is to appreciate about its influence, this game can be enjoyed for so much more than simply its impact on the industry, as even to this very day, Ocarina of Time is the perfect example of an adventure game that has a tremendous sense of scale and scope. From the very beginning moments of the game, everything is growing. The story is growing, the world is growing, and the characters are growing, all at a pace that seems natural and is well earned. The game also has a perfect sense of tone, with a fantasy and mysticism of Link's childhood, in contrast to the gritty and somber elements of Link's adult life. From the very beginning of the story, the game is leading you on this journey of Link's growth, as the game starts in Kokiri Forest, with Link surrounded by other childlike characters in what feels like a magical Peter Pan-type oasis. As Link and Navi progress through this quest as a child, the world begins to open up, and although new characters are met, some relationships become more distant through his adventure, all while maintaining some level of innocence. But it's soon after that everything changes dramatically. Link collects the 3 pendants, opens up the sealed door in the Temple of Time to reveal the Master Sword, where he removes it from its pedestal, and we warp forward in time. Over the course of the 7 years, we as an audience feel as if we've aged and matured with Link, as the fun and magical elements are now just a distant memory. And in order to restore hope for those we care about, Link must accept his independence and his tremendous amount of responsibility. There's the fallen Hyrule Kingdom, devoid of all the joy and harmonious elements it once had, now a barren wasteland preoccupied only by the undead. Then there's the cemetery hookshot sequence where Link is forced to interact with someone in the afterlife. There's the Kokiri Forest, Link's home, now desolate from any Kokiri, patrolled only by the forces of Ganon. There's Soraya Stump, now abandoned as Link's childhood friend is now missing from their home that's become shrouded in darkness. And there's the Forest Temple, with its dark and disorienting atmosphere and its music that communicates a sinister and mysterious tone. At this point, everything in the game is communicating a much graver and harsher reality. Just like our introduction to Link's childhood, our introduction to Link's adult life is masterfully crafted with a perfect sense of tone. Another way of putting it is that Link's childhood is the Hobbit to Link's adult life as Lord of the Rings. I would argue that the duality between a magical fairy tale and a darker, more mature plot is a balance that's never been executed in a single Zelda game as well as it was in Ocarina of Time. Almost every character, every level, every song, and every interaction understands the proper tone for each chapter of the story, which, as a result, creates the ultimate Zelda experience. Although there is plenty of exposition throughout the game, at many points it isn't even needed. because the atmosphere and the soundtrack do such an incredible job of telling the story of Hyrule on their own. It's reasons like this that the game has stood the test of time and still resonates with so many people on an emotional level even decades later. One thing that Ocarina of Time executes better than many other Zelda games is the rewarding nature of the side quests, and more specifically, the tasks in the game that are in no way required for you to ultimately beat the game. Sometimes, you just want to go run some errands in Kakariko Village, or go on a journey around the world doing a chain of favors for various NPCs. Other Zelda games have these optional side tasks as well, but the difference is that Ocarina does it in a way that is actually worth your time and is extremely rewarding. Stuff like several bottles, the Big Goron sword, and Nehru's love are tremendously useful and delightful to have in your inventory, but they're also completely unnecessary in order to beat the game. In Ocarina of Time, if you discover an area you haven't yet explored, the itch is stronger to pursue that rabbit trail, because at the end of it, there may actually be some kind of awesome reward that deeply enhances the experience. You can't really say that about a game like Breath of the Wild, as many side quests end with a breakable weapon reward, or simply an insignificant amount of rupees. In Ocarina, basically every task and objective feels like it's worth your energy, which is a continuously special feeling that very few games can replicate. Ocarina of Time is the perfect blend between combat and puzzle solving. Neither element lingers for too long before the other reintroduces itself. Much of this balance is thanks to the stellar design of the various dungeon levels. The dungeons themselves are also spaced out well, not just geographically, but also in terms of the amount of time in which you're playing the game. There's plenty of interesting and engaging aspects of the outdoors of Hyrule that keep you preoccupied between the dungeon levels. Neither the dungeons or Hyrule Field ever grow stale because they're spaced out so well and alternate at right about the time you start to crave the other. As much as I love The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, this was one of my few complaints I had with it, as it seemed like I was moving too quickly from dungeon to dungeon, and my brain began to desire a break from all the constant puzzle solving that comes along with that. In Ocarina of Time, the balance is executed in a much more satisfying way. It's also worth mentioning that I by no means claim to be a music expert, but Ocarina of Time's score has to be one of the most well-rounded video game scores ever, as the soundtrack provides a diverse collection of themes that inspire many different emotions, from the mystical Kokiri Forest, to the magical isolation within the Deku Tree, to the epic 5-minute theme of Hyrule Field, which, by itself, is one of the most impressive video game tracks of all time. It's one thing to have an amazing video game soundtrack that does an excellent job of adding to all the various atmospheres, but it's another level entirely to artistically integrate that music into the overall functionality of the game itself. Within this world of Hyrule, almost no moment, no detail, and no frame is wasted, as the various landscapes, villages, and interactions tell a story that's deeply connected with the other areas of Hyrule. Even something that would seem as mundane and routine as fast travel tells a story with the Ocarina, which requires you to play a song that is beautifully in sync with that area's atmosphere. Little details like this increase the sense of immersion and the level of engagement the player has with the game on a moment-to-moment basis. Music and sounds are some of the most powerful ways of instilling long-lasting memories, and by simply replaying a song, it can bring your mind back to a cherished experience, as if you were in that exact moment and place once again. The use of the interactive ocarina also brings the satisfying experience of learning, memorizing, and mastering an instrument, as you travel from location to location. Remember, this is all just about fast travel, simply going from point A to point B. But again, when it's done with the passion and the level of detail that Ocarina of Time does, the experience overall becomes worth so much more than the simple act itself. I alluded to this already, but the story and narrative continues to build throughout the game, up until the final climactic battle with Ganon, and what an epic conclusion it was. I say this with full confidence, but when I first played this game, this was the most epically exhilarating video game conclusion that I had ever experienced. Ganon's castle specifically is masterfully crafted, as the increasing volume of the organ paired with the ascending stairways to Ganondorf's chamber create an increasing sense of anticipation that is nearly impossible to forget. The battle is epic, the escape sequence is thrilling, and just when you think it's all over with an already satisfying ending, Ganondorf returns, but this time in his beast form as Ganon. As your Master Sword is knocked away and Navi promises to stay by your side, the incredible music swells, which sends goosebumps down my spine, as the final battle is just underway. The first phase requires you to use the skills and items you've gained up to this point, and when the second phase begins, you're reunited with the Master Sword, ready to finish the job once and for all. And then, when the time comes to make the final strike, Zelda plays her part in sealing Ganon's fate, which has since become a staple element of Zelda games. This final battle was not only incredibly satisfying, but it was so epic that Nintendo decided to have all of the various Zelda timelines all hinge upon the outcome of this last battle in Ocarina of Time. Both in my own personal experience and canonically, there isn't a more epic battle in all of Zelda lore. I could go on forever, talking about everything that's incredible within this game, but ultimately, I'm trying to make a video, not write a novel, so I'll have to wrap things up here. All in all, this is a masterpiece of storytelling and atmosphere that I will never ever forget, and I certainly don't speak for only myself when I say that this game has a very legitimate case for the title of the greatest video game of all time. So what do you guys think? Where does this game rank among the greatest games of all time? And if it's not your top choice, what is? Let me know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching as always, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.